Now, Donald Trump, in his second innings as the President of the United States, time and again, the Republican leader is known to use the phrase fake news in his address. Now, in his second term, let's in fact break down the number of times the American president has taken on the media houses for their reportage, terming it to be fake news. The American President Donald Trump is seeking at least about $10 billion in damages in a defamation lawsuit filed against media magnate Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal over the story relating him to sexual offender Jeffrey Epstein. The Wall Street Journal had reported about a 50th birthday greeting to Jeffrey Epstein, which Trump allegedly sent back in 2003. It included a sexually suggestive drawing and also the reference to secrets that they shared. Now, reacting to the defamation lawsuit, a spokesperson for the Dow Jones, the American publishing firm owned by News Corp, said in a statement that they have full confidence in the rigor and accuracy of their reporting and will vigorously defend against any lawsuit brought in by Donald Trump. Last month, Trump had singled out Forbes, calling out one of the outlet's journalists by name as he ripped the financial news publication over its coverage of him. The American president said that he hasn't spoken to journalists at Forbes in years, claiming that the outlet is biased against him. While the world reported on the U.S.'s Operation Midnight Hammer during the 12-day Israel-Iran war, the U.S. president called out CNN and New York Times for quoting an intelligence agency's low-confidence assessment on the U.S. strikes in Iran, and this was a Pentagon report. He attacked their reporting as fake news and suggested that the journalists responsible should be fired. The Trump administration also terminated 639 employees at the Voice of America and its parent organization last month. The White House put out a statement calling the outlet propaganda, leftist, and dubbed it the voice of radical Americans. Now, Carrie Lake, the close Trump ally and senior advisor to the U.S. Agency for Global Media, put out a statement saying, and I quote, "For decades, the American taxpayer has been forced to bankroll an agency that's been riddled with dysfunction, bias, and waste that ends now." All right, now joining us on the broadcast, we've got Mr. Adam Schwartz, who's a writer and a political commentator. Mr. Schwartz, thank you very much indeed for joining us here. Now, the fact that Donald Trump, if he does not like a certain news that's put out in the American media, he calls it fake news. The fact that he's brought about, this lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal and also its parent company for having reported of his links with Jeffrey Epstein. What do you make of this? Can he go to court saying that this is not a valid story?
Well, that's certainly his intention. But look, these lawsuits are really consistent with Trump's entire history of wielding litigation against his opponents, which really he does for two main reasons. And the first is to kind of gain leverage to try to seek legal settlements, to create some kind of deals that are either advantageous in terms of business or political wise. And the second reason really is as part of his sort of broader crusade against the press in the United States, really as a way to try to control information flows to the US public, but also to intimidate the public as well. And I think really, if you look at the fact that Trump has decided not just to go after media outlets, but in fact, as part of this lawsuit, going after individual journalists, that really indicates actually that is ultimately his goal here. As to whether it succeeds, I'm quite skeptical, really. I think there are a number of reasons why this could actually backfire for Trump. I think, firstly, the appearance of going to court kind of reinforces this idea that there is a cover-up. Secondly, I would say, he is trying to compete with people who are very well armed. Rupert Murdoch is very wealthy, so we'll have a very strong response to this. But thirdly, I think, the fact that the litigation process is actually quite unpredictable. And actually, this could result in not only Trump losing, but actually could end up in finding a situation where those claims that were made against him were in fact upheld. I think for Trump that would be the worst of all situations.
Right. Now, the case, of course, relates to an article that was published in the Wall Street Journal about linking Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, considering the fact as to how Donald Trump's position has changed on the Epstein files case, where earlier he said that he wanted to put out the Epstein files, and now he's in fact turned around and started asking, are you still talking about the Epstein files? Why do you think Trump's position has changed on the Epstein files?
Well, I think, that is the key question that everyone wants to know, but I think it's worth returning to the kind of origins of this claim that there was an Epstein client list floating around, which ultimately was derived from Trump's MAGA movement itself, which kind of disseminated this kind of conspiracy theory or this claim initially all over social media on the basis that ultimately, if it was released, it would be very damaging for Trump's Democratic opponents. Now that, the MAGA movement has its president back in the White House, that has built up huge expectations on behalf of that movement that there will be this client list released. And I think what you have now is the reality of the huge gap between those expectations of it being released and what has actually been released by the Trump White House, which has really not satisfied the part of the public in America which is really interested in this story. Now that combined with this Wall Street Journal story, as well as the fact that he is pursuing lawsuits, really has, as I said, reinforced this idea that there is some kind of cover-up. So I think ultimately, Trump is a victim of the conspiracy theories that grew out of his own movement and which he encouraged. And of course, that is the nature of conspiracy theories, that once they are out there in the public domain, they are very difficult to control, even if the original target of the conspiracy theories, which was the Democrats, is ultimately changed. So I think this is ultimately a situation where Trump has promised one thing being in opposition and out of power, and actually finds a situation where he is in power and actually is tasked with doing what he said he would do, and ultimately he can't win in that situation. But of course, we still don't know if there is this list. There's no definitive proof of that. And I think, a lot more questions need to be answered. And of course, a lot of that might come out in these lawsuits.
Interesting. We have to see as to what, of course, comes of this lawsuit. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Schwartz, for joining us from London and getting us that perspective.
Good to be with you.